Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Sunday Night Live.
Hello.
Sunday
How's
Night
everybody?
Live with Glenn and Tanya. No, this is Marriage Matters.
This is Marriage Matters.
So, welcome to Marriage Matters. Like I said, my name is Glenn Coleman, and I'll put this up real quick. I got some, you got to put our name up there, let people know who he is. So, my name is Glenn Coleman.
And I'm Tanya Coleman.
And like we said, this is Marriage Matters. This is a show where we talk about all things marriage, all things relationships. So, even if you're not married, you still can watch. How's your week going?
My week is going well.
Oh, this is the beginning of the new week.
This is the beginning of the new week, but the week went well. It was super busy, a lot of things going on that, you're aware of everything going on, but just a lot of things going on and trying to manage and juggle all the balls, keep them in the air.
Okay, well, cool deal. Okay, you're looking nice, looking good.
Thank you.
I love those glasses, by the way.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, those are nice. Anyway, we're supposed to be talking to the people.
Sweet.
Hello, Mother.
Hi, Mama.
So tonight we just want to just come to you and we're talking about our topic for tonight is it's not always your fault.
No.
Oh.
It's not always about you.
I'm sorry.
It's not always your fault.
Maybe that's what we need to talk about. It's not always about you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this, you kind of came up with this.
Yeah, it was funny. We were sitting around relaxing, and you have been working on some things behind the scenes, some upcoming things, logos and things like that. And I was kind of doing some work, and
keep talking. I'm gonna adjust these lights because they keep reflecting in your glasses. So
okay.
See if I can fix that.
Yeah, if I take them off, I cannot see a thing. But it just came up in me that, oftentimes when things happen in relationships, in marriage, in business, work, or what have you, we tend to automatically think that it is about us. And I was thinking, in just thinking about that and meditating about that, I thought about, even.
I don't know if that's better.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Hey, Ginger. Ginger's on with
us. What's up, Ginger Snaps?
But thinking about that, I kind of chuckled. I said, even with the girls, with the kids, and parents out there, you guys may be able to relate. The kid can come out of their room and they look like, the world is coming to an end.
Mm-hmm.
And, we kind of go at, well, what's wrong first, maybe what's wrong, or you're okay. You may go in a little gently at first. But if they're still walking around like that, then we get this, I don't know why you're walking around with an attitude, kind of thing. And you're just so ungrateful. And what dawned on me is that when we do that, is that about them or is that about me? As a spouse, if you're upset about something, or maybe you just have something on your mind, and I see you, I know your facial expressions, your body language, all of that good stuff. And oftentimes I will immediately, I'm speaking for myself, not anyone else. Y'all probably don't do this. But I will immediately think, well, did I do something? Did I say something?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing. So I immediately turn it around and make it about me.
Yeah. Right.
So I wanted to come on and talk tonight about how many times we make things about us. It's really not about us, and we need to dig deeper.
Okay. Well, I love when things snap for me or click for me.
Mm-hmm.
And the other day, we were talking to another couple, and we were talking to them and listening to their story. And then all of a sudden, for me, it snapped or clicked. I don't want to say snapped. It just clicked that so many times when you're talking about making it about me, and this may be a different angle than you kind of are talking about, but we have to remember this, that our spouses or our fiancés or whatever stage of relationship you're in, even with people you work with, parents, all of that. We all have history.
Absolutely.
And I always say this, that, God doesn't make bad people. And, the Bible talks about everything that God made was good. So I believe with all my heart, everybody comes here. We are born into earth good. Unfortunately, we have to deal with people and circumstances.
Right.
And it's people and circumstances that create bad people. Right. And so a lot of times what happens, I think, in life is that we tend to respond out of we tend to respond not based on what's in front of us, but what we've experienced in the past.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so a lot of times, whether that's hurt we've experienced, whether that's rejection we've experienced, whatever we've experienced in the past, a lot of times I think we respond and react out of that. So, for instance, if I'm talking to you about something and you respond a certain way, if you respond in a way maybe not becoming, I'll just put it that way. But what I have to realize is that a lot of times that response that I'm getting has nothing to do with me.
Right.
But it's everything that you've experienced in the past. And it could even be some residual stuff that you and I experienced that we hadn't dealt with.
Right.
And so now when you're responding to me, it's based on, not what's going on now, but it's based on what we've experienced in the past. Does that make
Absolutely.
sense?
And it's so funny you said that. It was actually in my notes for later on, because what's happening is that our ego, which is shaped by past experiences, begins to get in the way. And so I made a note, and I want to make sure that I don't miss my point in saying that. The ego, which is hypercritical of you and sometimes those around you, by way of having you to think or feel something negative about yourself, the situation, the other person. It's those thoughts of when you say something, I may, say something to you or in another situation with a colleague or what have you, and then you go back and you are rethinking what you said. That's that critical piece of that ego, which is developed from those past experiences. So we have to be careful we need to be not careful, but aware of what's happening and what's going on the inside of us anytime we are faced with a situation where our spouse or someone that we come into contact with is just not having the best day, and they're not showing up as their normal selves or selves as we think they should. We need to make sure that we don't take that and turn it around on ourselves or start seeing it through our own lens of insecurity, self-doubt, and things of that nature, and really seek to separate ourselves from it and investigate what's going on with them.
Yeah. I mean, because and this is something that I had to learn, is that it's impossible to be offended when the ego is out of the way. The reason why we get offended is because of the ego. It's because we feel that we've been wrong but what I've come to realize, or I try to realize, and again, guys, I'm not by any means say I'm perfect in this, but what I try to realize more importantly is not just what that person is saying to me, but number one, I have to be secure in who I am.
Absolutely.
And when I'm secure in who I am, and I know the truth about who I am, I know the value that I bring to the table in this relationship, it makes it that much harder to offend me.
Right.
I'll give this example. This was years ago. Well, actually about 16 years ago. Well, maybe it's 15 years ago. And Bethany she wasn't the only thing. She was 1 year old, 1 year old yet. 1 year old. We always put an S, but it's
just 1 year.
1 year old. Okay. Anyway, we were in Ryan's Steakhouse. There you go. I saw the post the other day with the S. How people put an S on everything.
On everything.
It's like Walmart's, Target's, Kroger's.
Yeah.
So I'm being conscious about my S's. So I
You're
think
good.
everything.
You're good.
Anyway, we were in Ryan's, and our waitress was an older Caucasian lady.
Mm-hmm.
I would say maybe she had to be
late 60s, early 70s, maybe. I mean, she was
older.
Mm-hmm.
And she walks up to our table and sees little Bethany there in the little high chair, and she looks at Bethany and she says, "Oh, she's so pretty. She could be Miss Black America."
Mm-hmm.
And immediately, your girl, I could see, if you could see into the spirit, you would see the steam coming off of her head. But again, I understood for that lady, she was trying to give a compliment, but that compliment was based in her experience. She probably was raised in a different time, and you got what I'm saying. And so her saying Miss Black America, you know, that was not about Bethany being only pretty. She wasn't pretty just for a Black girl. And that's how it could have been interpreted. But I understood her history. Not to say that what she said was okay, not to excuse what she said, but it helped me in that moment to know basically she didn't know any better. You know, and I'm not saying because you don't know better, you don't do better, all that kind of stuff, but I'm just trying to get you to see a point. Is in that moment I realized that, you know what, she didn't have a problem. It's not we're not the problem.
Right. It was an error.
It's and the problem is with her. And in a lot of times in our relationships, when it's not us with the problem and people come to us and respond to us out of their struggles, out of their problem, then like Tanya said, we make it about us when it has nothing to do. And so when we make it about us, then what do? We respond back now out of our hurt and our insecurities and our a lack of sense of value, and then we respond back to that way to that person. Then they respond back to us out of that, and we get into this.
It's a constant battle of being offending someone else, and you're responding out of your own hurt and anger and all of those things. And so there's no healthy communication, no healthy dialogue, and you're not able to move forward. And just, you know, relating back to that story, I understand now. I remember now my own experience and why I responded that way when that lady said that was because of my own personal experience of someone saying that to me as a teenager, you know. So that kind of, again, shaped, you know, my feelings around those kinds of situations. But you did a really good job helping me to see clear.
Because I was like, some tables about to start turning up in Ryan's. You know, that was long. I don't know last time we ate in Ryan's. But anyway,
but that's a great example. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you had to go ahead.
No. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
No, you go ahead. No, I'm just okay. But so our point in this is that so many times in relationships, we have to understand and recognize that whatever, and I know it's hard to do that in the moment, but a lot of times with our partner, our spouse, whatever, it's not what they're dealing with, even though it's like you're just the person that's there in the moment,
right? But
what they're dealing with a lot of times is not you. So, you know, we have to learn to put ourselves aside. And I guess, you know, the ultimate example of that is Christ, right?
Always Jesus.
Jesus said, he said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do."
Right.
In their minds, they thought that they were doing the right thing.
Yeah.
You know, they thought that they were doing the right thing. But Jesus understood that this has nothing to do, really, it had nothing to do with me, but it was the enemy, the law of sin that was at work in them that was causing them to do that.
Right.
You know, so it's not about you. That what they said is not about you. The way, you know, they treated you it's really not about, you know, it's the old saying, hurt people.
Absolutely.
You know,
and we always have to remember that whenever we encounter someone, you know, rather our spouse, our children, people we meet in the store, on our jobs. We're not just encountering that individual, but we're encountering all of their experiences prior to that moment.
Yeah.
And so it could be that maybe your spouse had a horrible day at work. Maybe that they've been working on a project and it fell through. Maybe there was, some sort of correction from their boss or what have you. So it's not always about you.
Mm-hmm.
Try to find out, okay, honey, what's happening? Is there something that I can do to help? When you're ready to talk about it, I'm here to talk about it. Be more supportive instead of automatically becoming offended. And that's what I meant when I thought about, that it's not always about you or it's not about you, is that when we make it about us, we become offended, we become angry, we begin to be defensive and all of those different things. Bring that down and open yourself up to just hear and see. And if it is about you, okay, so do we come back with more hurt, more angry words and all of those things? Or do we sit and we listen and we process through it? Are we open to hearing that? And
this is why, guys, and we talk about this a lot, but it's something that we try to implement and live by. Personal growth. That's why personal growth, even in your relationships, is so important, because it's the average person. What we're talking about, most people, let me say it that way. Most people don't operate that way.
Right.
If you offend me, well, you know what? I'm going to offend you back. But again, you don't realize that offense has really nothing to do with me.
Right.
It's that person that's struggling with their mess. And that's why, and I'm going to try to do it. I always mess it up. But that's why, we tell our couples, especially when we're doing premarital counseling, it's like it's 1 times 1 equals 1. One whole person times one whole person equals one whole marriage. But when you bring in somebody who's a half a person, in other words, they're still struggling with insecurities and all the stuff we talked about earlier, you take a half times 1 equals a half. So half person times a whole person is a half marriage. And then if you take a half person times a half person, that's a fourth. So you start to deplete. So that's why it's so important that we do work on that. We work on understanding who we are, understanding the value of ourselves, because Jesus in the Word of God, Jesus, they asked him, what's the greatest commandment? Right. And he said, to love God, then he said, and then the second is like unto it's to love your neighbor as you love yourself. So my question is, the reason why, or what I want to say is the reason why it's so tough for a lot of people to love others is because they clearly don't love themselves. Right. Yeah. And I used to say that that it's the song, which the Whitney Houston song, learning to love yourself. Yeah. It's the greatest love of all. Right. And I think I used to say that's not the greatest love of all. The loving God is, but I understand now what you were saying, that if you truly don't love yourself, then it's really hard because here's the deal. In order to love others, you have to be selfless. And loving yourself is not selfish. Loving yourself is having the ability to say, you know what? And this is how it makes sense to me. For me, the love box in my life has been checked. Yeah. Because God loves me, I love myself. Yeah. Because the love box has been checked, now I can put myself aside and love others. That's so good. That's very good. But if your love box isn't checked, it puts you in the mode of always seeking that approval, that love from others. Right. And it that gets in the way of, even in the moments where we may disagree or we may be arguing or whatever. If I don't have my love box checked, then I can't say, okay, let me put myself aside and see what's really going on with my spouse. Right. It's, well, if you're not going to pay attention to me, if you're not going to love me, then I'm not going to love you. And that's where I think the breakdown a lot of times in relationships happen. I think you're absolutely right. And
to learn. And when you said that, let me kind of slow down. When you said that,
hey, Kathy Daniels.
Hey, that's my
cousin. That's your cousin,
hey,
Hunter Daniels.
Yeah. A lot of times, I know of a lot of people who love God, but they struggle to love themselves. And it makes it difficult to treat myself well, to take care of myself, to have self-care, to, do the things that I need to do to take care of my mind, body, and soul, and so then in turn, I'm not healthy enough to love other people the way that they should be loved or need to be loved. Does that make sense? Yeah. So, I think that is, Whitney was on to something with that lyric.
yeah. And I think, we really need to understand it starts there with value, and I think I shared this last episode. I can't remember, but it's like, I just realized that the marriage isn't the problem. The marriage isn't the problem. The marriage is perfect. God ordained marriage. Right. Marriage is perfect and complete. The problem is we have two people who are coming together to try to form
two imperfect people.
Right. So that's where the issue is. And that's why it's so important, like I said earlier, to understand that, to do the work. And I was going to say something else about that, but I forgot. So like I said, I didn't need to say it. So go ahead and say what you were saying.
I wanted to go back over something. So I mentioned the ego earlier, and being mindful or staying aware of those moments when the ego, which is, I kind of call it that hypercritical voice, is sending you those negative messages. You have to stop and get to what you know, get to what's true, because everything that you think is not always true. And so get back to when you're having those moments where you're having that negative message that's coming your way about what your spouse may be thinking or feeling or what have you. Get back to what you know is true. You said something that is crucial, that the marriage is good. The marriage is perfect. It's us that we need to do the work on. I know that even in times where you may not be happy with me, if I can
that's
say
never. That. Never.
Well, I have gotten on your last nerve. Can I say that? No? Okay.
You never do that.
I never do that? No, I know. But no. Sometimes it happens.
Look, I'm coughing. God punish me for lying.
You acting like you're doing it now.
Let me drink some coffee.
But yeah, even in those moments, when I get back to what I know is true, I know that you love me. I know that you're here. I know that you're not going anywhere, and I know that whatever it is, we can work through it together. Yeah. So getting back to what you know in those moments is crucial.
Yeah. And even that, going through that checklist when you're in those moments, and I know, because I know for me, thinking this way is a little hard for me, just because, we're taught, always put others before yourself, all that kind of stuff. But I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, but what I'm saying is, in that moment, my mind's like, I know she's not talking to me that way because, I'm valuable and you shouldn't talk. So my point is, I know my value.
Right.
And I know that behavior does not match or does not honor who I am. So if that is true, again, it lets me know that, so I may not be the problem, even though I am the problem. I'm going somewhere.
Okay.
So yes, I may have done something, but instead of me, because I know that I'm valuable, and I know that you said the key word, ego, because my ego is not in the way, because the way you treat me does not make my ego go up or down. The way you treat me does not make my self-worth go up or down. My self-worth comes from who God created me to be.
Absolutely.
So now, if you are telling me something that you're frustrated with me about, now what that does is, again, I can get out of the way. I can get my ego out of the way, and I can really, truly hear what you are saying.
Absolutely.
I've said this before, but I remember Holy Spirit telling me one time, stop listening to how she's saying it and listen to what she's saying. Because I was so caught up in how you were saying it.
Right. Ego said, "Oh, she's being disrespectful."
So, and as a man, I'm not. I'm a man. I'm a man. You ain't gonna disrespect me. Which, if let me just say this, if I don't know if well, hopefully you got some husbands or some men watch. If your manhood lies in how your wife is talking to you, then for me, your manhood is in question. Because the way someone talks to me does not say whether I am a man or whether I'm not a man. My manhood, I'm a man because that's what God created me to be. I'm a leader because that's who God created me to be. Not based on what someone says or how someone says it. So again, because I could get my ego out of the way, and the Holy Spirit told me, he said, stop listening to how she's saying and listen to what she's saying. So now I can listen to what you're saying. And even though you may not be saying it in a way that agrees, that in the past may have agreed with me, now I can say, okay, what she's really saying is she needs me to help out more around the house. That's what she's really saying. I know she's screaming and
saying you don't never do nothing around
you don't never
here.
And I know, and he doesn't. I know that's not true because I know I help out the house, but what I can do now is say my love box has been checked. I can get my ego out of the way, and I can really say, oh, what she's really saying is she needs me to help out more around the house. You got what I'm saying? And I know, again, this doesn't happen like this all the time, but this is something that I think we're both growing in and trying to just trying to grow in.
Right. So basically, guys, we're just saying, listen, when you're in a marriage, you're in a relationship, any kind of relationship, every day is not going to be perfect. Sometimes your spouse may be, upset about something. You may be upset about something. The kids may be walking around slamming doors and all of these different things because they have their own stuff going on. It's not always about you. Get yourself out of the way. Get your ego out of the way and do the work to get to the root of whatever it is. And don't allow those moments, though, and they're usually small moments that escalate into something big. Catch the little fire. Put the little fire out. Dig deeper. Sit down. Have a conversation. Give that person some space, some breathing room if they need it. And just be there to support whenever they're ready to talk. So it's not always about you.
Yeah. So I mean, if you guys have any comments on that, please comment in the comments. Let us know.
I've been kind of checking to see if people were commenting.
Yeah, it should show up over here, but we got a couple there. But we just want to thank everybody for watching tonight. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. I see Latari is watching.
Hey,
we got
Latari.
Ginger. Jennifer Arduin. Hey Jen, how you doing?
Hey Jen. Miss Brittany French. You know I like saying your whole name.
Brittany.
Hey Brittany French.
Oh my God, I'm so glad you joined us.
Love you, girl.
So in closing, guys.
Janetta Williams, thank you for joining.
But in closing, like we said, it's not always about you. So if that person you're in a relationship with, whatever that is, husband, your spouse, your kids, your co-workers, your family, whatever it is, try to, first of all, you got to get your love box checked. Okay. That's the most important thing. Because when you know God loves you and you love you, then you don't have to spend your life trying to get that love from someone else.
Yes. Wait a second.
Go ahead.
I don't want to miss, but I want to say hello to someone I missed, Miss Elizabeth Radcliffe.
Oh yeah, Liz, how you
doing, Elizabeth?
Number one fans.
Yes, one of our number one
fans.
I know, followers. Thank you so much for following and sharing. We love you.
But what was I saying? You interrupted me.
I'm sorry.
It's not about you.
But I didn't want to miss it. It wasn't about me. It was about her. It was about them.
You're right. That was about me, huh? Because you interrupted me. Okay. Anyway, I just want to let you guys know and thank you guys so much for following us and let you know that you can follow us on Facebook, Marriage Matters, at Marriage Matters 0526, on Instagram at Marriage Matters 0526. Subscribe to us on YouTube, Marriage Matters on YouTube. Also, I don't know if you guys knew this, but you can also catch Marriage Matters podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, pretty much anywhere you can find podcasts, you can find Marriage Matters. So follow us there. When you follow us, please leave us a review and let us know what you think. Also, if there's any show topics that you have ideas for or any questions, whatever it is, just reach out to us and we love to talk about it. Absolutely. And we also offer relationship coaching. So if that's something that you're interested in, we do that as well. So those are all of the things. You got anything else?
No, nothing else.
That's it.
I'm enjoying doing these lives. It's
cool.
We used to do them. We used to do them,
but
I'm enjoying.
You guys let us know what you think. Do you guys rather us do it live or
have
do the pre-recorded? We'll probably still do the pre-recorded, edited stuff. We'll keep it going.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is Glenn Coleman and Tanya Coleman reminding you that your marriage matters. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.